Hi, I'm B-Boy Bill, and this is Decrystallizing Honey with a Quick Pot. Hey guys, today we're talking about decrystallizing honey, and this is the beginning of a whole series I'm doing on honey videos. So if you want to see more of these, make sure to click the subscribe button, hit that little bell thing, and you'll see when each one gets posted. Well, my first year of beekeeping, I wasn't planning on getting any honey, but an unfortunate / fortunate event happened where I had some cross combing and I actually had to pull some of those frames out and clean them up. So I crushed and strained them and made some honey. Now, an interesting thing happened. I crushed and strained that honey, put it in jars, put it away, hoping to share with my family and friends as we got closer into the holiday season. And turns out in fall, my house got down in the 50s, that the honey decided to get nice and hard like this. And I was kind of freaked out because how am I going to give away hard honey? Nobody wants hard honey. What am I going to do with this crystallized honey? So I started thinking about ways to remedy this problem. And I tried a couple different things. And what I ended up doing is doing it on the stove first. Now that posed a couple problems because I had to monitor the temperature really closely and make sure that it didn't go over a certain temp. Speaking of certain temps, here's a side note, and I'm sure everybody has their own opinion on this, but in order to maintain raw honey, from the best research I can find, you have to be under 120 degrees Fahrenheit. If you go over that, you start killing off the good things in the raw honey. Well, I didn't want to get anywhere close to that. So I was trying to keep my honey about 110 degrees Fahrenheit at the max. And that was the water bath temperature. That's not actually the honey in the jar. That's just the water bath temperature I've been putting it in. And that way the honey doesn't go over 110 degrees. Even if it did get the temperature of the water, it wouldn't be over 110 degrees. The problem is when I started doing this, I was doing it on our kitchen stove. And the issue with the kitchen stove is that you have to constantly monitor the water temperature so that it didn't go over 110. I wanted to keep it between 100 and 110. If I waited too long between checking on it, it could go below that 100, and then I'd have a problem where I wasn't doing anything, just setting honey in the stove, or it'd go over that temperature, and then I might have a problem with the honey not being raw anymore, not being able to give it away as raw honey. As luck would have it, we won this guy at a raffle, and I was thinking, you know, we're going to give this away. I don't need a quick pot. I'm not into all that newfangled stuff. Let's give this away to somebody for Christmas. And we couldn't find anybody to give it to for Christmas, and it was sitting on top of the fridge. I'm looking at it, and thinking, you know, there's got to be a better way to do this honey and keep it at temperature. And it turns out a quick pot has this thing called a sous vide, which is a French term for basically keeping your water at a certain temp while you boil your food really slow. I know I'm going to get some flack out there from somebody. Sous vide is not boiling your food. It's just basically cooking your food at a lower temperature. You put it in a Ziploc bag or a vacuum sealed bag, put it in a water bath, and set it at a low temperature. It works great for meats and things. It gets them really tender. Gets a terrible piece of meat really tender. And there's all kinds of stuff out there you could check out on sous vide. But what I wanted to do was keep my water at 110 degrees so that my honey didn't cook too much. So between you and me, guys, I got to tell you, the most dangerous thing about using this quick pot is sneaking it into the basement without the wife knowing. So I got a couple tips for you. First, you know, it's always a good idea to encourage that wife to get out and have some girl time, maybe do a little shopping. What are those other things? Oh yeah, spa day. Why don't you go for a spa day, honey? These are just some tips to help you guys so you can get your quick pot down in the basement without the wife finding out. So now that we covered the dangers of the quick pot, let's get to work. All right, guys, the first thing we're gonna do is get this lid off. We do not need the lid on the quick pot while we're decrystallizing the honey. Next thing is take your honey. Now, you wanna take the lid off of there just in case it does have a chance of exploding. I don't think it would, but you know, always be on the safe side. Safe boy Bill, that's what they call me. And go ahead and set this in here. Normally when I do this not on camera, I leave the lid on there just a little bit so that nothing falls in the honey. But don't put it on the threads at all because you do not want that jar to explode if it was gonna. And the only other thing we need to do is put some water in here. There's a little fill line in here, but I'm going to guess because I can't see it on this side. All right, there we are, right up to the fill line. We're going to put this jar right in the center. We're done with the water now. And all that's left to do is turn this baby on. All right, what you want to do here is hit the sous vide button right here. We're going to go ahead and hit the beef, move it up to 12 hours. It shouldn't take that long, but we'll put it on 12 hours. And then we're going to hit this temp button right down here. We're going to dial it down to 110. And then go ahead and fire it up. Now you want to verify the temp, go ahead and hit the temp button again. It should say that it is on 110, and it is, so we are good to go. All right, guys, our quick pot is in business and we are rolling here. So I'm gonna try to do a little time lapse of this honey decrystallizing, see if I can get that on camera for you guys. And the only other thing we need to do is keep a lookout for the wife, make sure she doesn't discover that the quick pot is down here, and distract her if need be. Speaking of the quick pot, I did find this exact one that I'm using on Amazon, and I'll put the link down below. Anytime you use one of those links, it does help the channel, and I appreciate it, guys. All right, we're back. This is probably the most boringest time lapse ever. It has been about 24 hours, and the only thing I did do in between there is come down every few hours and give this a little stir just to help it along, and top the water off. Make sure you keep the water topped off. Other than that, this baby has ran all night with no problems. I did set the timer again before I went to bed back to 12 hours, so it'd run through the night, and our honey is looking great. We're gonna get this honey out and see how it flows, but I wanted to ask you guys, do you have any tricks on how to soften crystallized honey, or maybe a solid honey fix? Put them in the comments below. I'd love to know how you guys are doing it out there too. All right, here we go. Just gonna remove the jar from the quick pot, give it a nice dry. Now I'm using, this is completely raw honey, so I did, as I was working, I did pick some of the wax out of the top, because I do get a little wax in there, but before I give it away or put it in bottles for other people, I always take the wax out myself. You see? And we'll give it a pour here so you can see it is nice and liquid now. Look at that goodness. Makes you smile just looking at it, doesn't it? Yeah. And there you have it. We went from solid honey to liquid gold. Well, guys, if it's one thing I know about crystallized honey in the quick pot, it ain't quick. 24 hours it took to get this. A little bit of stirring here and there, but otherwise no major babysitting, and I'm happy with the results. Well, we'll see you next time. I'm B-Boy Bill. Thanks for watching. All right, guys. 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 First thing we're gonna do is get this lid off the crock pot. All right, guys. First thing we're gonna do is get the lid off. We do not need to. First thing we're gonna do is get the lid off. Get this lid off. We do not need the lid on the quick pot. Sneaking this into the basement without your wife finding out, because tips, and you can use them at how. I gotta tell you guys. Sneaking into the basement without your wife finding out. Gus, knock it off. Gus. Gus, knock it off.